All right, it is another mock draft. Today we are picking from the 7th spot. If you are looking for picks 1 through 6, those are all available in podcasts, and the first 4, I believe, are up on video. Eventually, we're going to have them all up in video form here. But yes, today we are going from the number 7 spot, and then later on today, we're going to do another one that is just from the number 8 spot. So we are double dipping with the mock draft. So I'm interested to see how this one kind of plays out. We've had some fun doing different strategies with some of the different teams. The preseason is now done, so some of these ADP numbers may have shifted as well. So I'm interested to see what kind of team we get from the middle part of this. I've already finished my first fantasy draft in the real world. I don't think it went particularly awful, so it's been nice that we have been preparing for this. It certainly helped me out quite a bit. All right, we are going to hit start draft. Then a little box is going to come up. Hit OK. Oh, we are absolutely muting that again. There we go. No, mute it. There we go. All right, so Christian McCaffrey off the board first. Man, Jamar Chase almost fell to us at 6. That would have been quite something. So we see here the top players available: Bijan Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, and Nick Chubb. And A.J. Brown. Those are the ones who, by ADP, are projected to go here. I'm not going to go Bijan Robinson. I think he is rather talented as a football player, for sure. But we have... Sorry, my dog is outside whining. Bijan Robinson is very talented, but we just haven't seen it. What we have seen is Saquon Barkley. And so I think with our first pick here, we are going to go with the New York Giants running back and Saquon Barkley. So after that, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, bunch of receivers come off. Bijan Robinson does go. Derrick Henry going ahead of Nick Chubb. Chubb finally does go. I was wondering if we would get Chubb coming back around to us. We didn't. So now we are in a spot. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not as high on Amon-Ra St. Brown as a fantasy option as a number of other people are. I think he is kind of a product of high volume. He's quite talented. There's no question about it. But I feel like as that Lions offense continues to evolve, he's going to kind of get left behind a little bit. And I'm also projecting a little bit of regression from Detroit this year. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is not necessarily the way I want to go. Josh Allen is there. We've done that before. One quarterback is already off the board. Patrick Mahomes going with the second pick of the second round in this draft. Jonathan Taylor, the injury stuff really worries me. Tony Pollard, I've said before, I said it on Friday's show with the overvalued players. I feel like if you're drafting Tony Pollard here, you're kind of going for best case scenario. Like you are baking in exactly 0 up or 0 downside in that pick. Garrett Wilson's a very viable option, as is Jalen Waddle. Jalen Hurts is there as well. Najee Harris and Mark Andrews. None of those really jump off the page to me. So we are going against everything we've done in these drafts so far, where we've been trying to load up on receivers early because of the fall off late. We are going to go with our quarterback here. We are going to go Josh Allen in our number 2 slot and see what happens when we do wait on wide receiver. 7 is a tough spot because you don't really get any of those quick turnaround picks like we've been enjoying so far in this draft. So in these drafts. So Deebo Samuel and Ramondre Stevenson going back to back right before us certainly stings a little bit. Definitely don't like that. So let's go by positions here. We are probably going to look at a wide receiver. T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, and Keenan Allen are the wide receivers available. At tight end, you still have some of them left. Kyle Pitts has fallen quite a bit ADP-wise. When we started these, he was much higher than this. But you still have the opportunity to get Kittle, Hawkinson. You know, we're probably going to try to wait to get one of Waller, Goddard, or Ingram in these spots. So that's where we're at there. At running back, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, and Damian Pierce. So as these have gone on, there's a few more of those names that I like, but we're going to gamble that some of those might be around a little bit later on. There's only one of these that I love at wide receiver, and it's DK Metcalf. So we're going to go Metcalf there, get our wide receiver room started. And as we see, there's a run on wide receivers once we made that pick. Now a few running backs are coming off of the board. The one that I was hoping would not come off did not come off, and so we're going to go Damian Pierce here. He is so talented, and I do feel like he has kind of, his value has isn't necessarily meshing with the talent. And I have major concerns about what's going to happen this year offensively out in Houston, but Dameon Pierce is not one of those concerns. I think he is incredibly talented. I think he's a very gifted running back, and I think he's probably the best weapon that offense has. So when you combine all of those things together, it all balls up into a real nice little package. So I like Dameon Pierce there as our RB2. Another tight end comes off the board with George Kittle. As it loops around, another couple quarterbacks going with Herbert and Fields, another tight end with Hawkinson. DJ Moore, man, Team 6 is reading my list of undervalued players here, because I was hoping DJ Moore would swing back around to us here at this spot. Team 6 is, quite frankly, really starting to piss me off a little bit. So for available players, we have Cam Akers, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara, and Javonte Williams at running back. At wide receiver, it's Terry McLaurin, Drake London, Christian Watson, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, and Mike Williams. We still have Waller, Goddard, and Ingram available for tight ends that we are interested in. So hopefully we're not waiting around too late on the tight end run, but I'm going to go Drake London. Again, I think quite a talented wide receiver. I do worry about Desmond Ridder throwing him the football, but London, I think, has the opportunity to take another step here in year 2. So we're going to go Drake London in this spot. Christian Watson, Terry McLaurin go right after that. Then you get a couple of receivers in Swift and Akers. Pitts, one tight end goes. Connor and Williams come off of the board as well. Trevor Lawrence, another quarterback, and then 2 receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Williams. So only 1 tight end comes off. There's still 3 that are available that we don't mind, but looking at ADP, they are probably going to come off of the board in this spot. At running back, it's Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, and James Montgomery. Wide receivers available, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, and George Pickens, who's been getting a lot of steam throughout the preseason. So I'm probably now going to go here at the tight end spot. I feel like that there isn't a running back or a wide receiver that I'm worried about losing out on, and I'm worried that we're going to miss a tight end run here by the time our next pick comes around. So we're going to go Darren Waller, the number 1 target, I think, for the New York Giants. Waller is so talented, and you were hearing the reports early on out of training camp that they had to sit Waller during practice so that Daniel Jones would throw to someone else. So I feel good about getting Waller there. And as this draft went on, or as this round went on, Dallas Goedert goes off of the board as well. So the only tight end that we're comfortable taking that's available is Evan Ingram. And who knows if that's still on the board. If this draft goes out a little bit differently. So I'm happy that we went with Darren Waller in the 6th round there. Now let's look at what's available. Rashad White at running back, along with A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet, and Khalil Herbert. We all know we stand in this house for Khalil Herbert, but I'm going to play the ADP game. He's ADP right now is 99 here on Sleeper, so we're gonna let him be there. Wide receiver, George Pickens, Marquise Brown, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's dealing with that wrist injury, Jordan Addison, and Jahan Dotson. So a couple of very interesting players there. And we're not going to go with a second tight end or a second quarterback in this draft. In a 12-team league, I don't think that's overly necessary here. So looking at what's available right now, I don't mind Antonio Gibson here in this spot, but again, at 91 overall, I feel like we can wait on that. I'm going to go George Pickens. I am not a big believer in this Pittsburgh offense, but enough people who I trust have been talking up George Pickens that I feel like he is someone that can really shine this year in another season in the Pittsburgh system. Just need the quarterback to help him out. And now again, we're seeing some of these wide receivers coming off the board. Jahan Dotson, I don't think that was going to swing around to us, but that one stings maybe a little bit. Antonio Gibson does not come off of the board here. So in a perfect scenario, we can go Gibson here and Khalil Herbert next, and then running back I feel very good about, and I feel good about this team. So if we are able to get that swing, I feel ecstatic. So we're going to go Antonio Gibson here. A couple quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Rodgers, Zay Flowers, and Jordan Addison coming off. Interesting that San Francisco's defense goes that high. I still feel like there are players available that I would like more than a defense. And the gamble has paid off. Coming back around, running backs that were taken, there was only one. It was Zach Charbonnet. So Khalil Herbert is right there. Let's just do a quick check at wide receiver. Quentin Johnson is a receiver who I don't mind. Juju Smith-Schuster. Cortland Sutton is just so good. I worry about the quarterback situation there, but I think that is absolutely a great late round flyer to take. But we're going to go with our guy, Khalil Herbert. I think there's a breakout coming for Herbert. So we are going to go with that one there. I'm probably done at running back for a bit, with Jalen Warren hanging around late into this draft. We'll be comfortable taking him later. Wide receiver, there's Odell Beckham Jr. So coming off of the board, Quentin Johnson did come off, as did Smith-Schuster and Cortland Sutton. A couple more defenses in the Cowboys and the Eagles. Anthony Richardson at quarterback came off, as did Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, and Samaje Perine. So we're back on the clock here with the 6th pick of the 10th round. For running backs, we have Saquon Barkley, we have Pierce, we have Gibson, and we have Herbert. At wide receiver, we have Metcalf, London, and Pickens. Our quarterback is Allen, and our tight end is Darren Waller. So I'm feeling good about this. At running back that's available, Devon Achane, Elijah Mitchell, Ezekiel Elliott, Jerick McKinnon, and Damian Harris. At wide receiver, we have Odell Beckham Jr., Elijah Moore, Alan Lazard, Rashad Bateman, Sky Moore, and Jameson Williams. So, quite frankly, not in love with all of these picks here. So I'm going to reach on Jalen Warren. I think he has the potential to finish above all of these players when the season is done. And I don't think we're in a spot now where we can necessarily, where we can just wait on players. I think at this point, if you like a guy, don't mess around and just take him. So we do that. Odell Beckham Jr. comes off the Bills defense as well. Kirk Cousins, Dalton Kincaid, Rashad Bateman, a few wide receivers here, Elijah Moore and Alan Lazard coming off as well. We see a couple more running backs, and then it comes back around to us. So as mentioned, don't love a lot of the options that are available at this point. And so here is where I am comfortable taking a defense. I think the Saints defense with Dennis Allen as the coach is going to be a real problem this year. I like Miami's defense with Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator there. And I think Pittsburgh's defense is going to be a real problem as well. But we're going to go with the New Orleans Saints defense and just lock that position in because, like I said, that there aren't any skill position players that I'm worried about losing here as this draft kind of swings around. The only one that went after us that I winced at a little bit was Tyler Algier going with the 4th pick of the 12th round. We have 4 running backs locked in. We have a couple of wide receivers as well. Sorry, we have 5 running backs locked in. The way that this tallies put one of them into the flex. So at this point, we don't really have a strong positional need. I would like one more wide receiver to kind of balance that room out. And I think a sleeper in this, there's a couple of guys who I've been taking as sleepers in these spots. It's Romeo Doubs, it's Darnell Mooney. So again, we're going to play the ADP game. We're going to hope that Mooney lasts to us, and we're going to take Romeo Doubs here. First kickers coming off of the board. At this point, like kicker to me, you can wait on kicker to the very last pick. But there definitely becomes a point in this on defenses where, like the getting that top level defense just makes more sense than taking a random flyer on some of these players when some of the players who I like are still available after that. So at this point, Darnell Mooney is still available. We are going to do that. I think that this is going to be a Chicago offense that throws the ball a lot more, and Darnell Mooney has proven himself to be an extremely talented player. So I think that there's going to be a lot of space for him this year in that offense. Since that pick, another kicker comes off, 2 kickers come off the board in McManus and Sanders. We missed out on the Steelers defense. That was a pretty good one. The only one that, again, I winced at a little bit is Condre Miller. I was kind of hoping he would swing back around to us. He does not. So, with our second last pick and our last skill position player before we take a kicker, available at running back is Devin Singletary, Deuce Vaughn, Rashawn Johnson, and Kenny Gainwell, along with Kareem Hunt and Jeff Wilson. At wide receiver, it's Jonathan Mingo, Nico Collins, Zay Jones, Rondale Moore, and Michael Gallup. So again, not a lot of phenomenal standout options here. I'm going to go Jeff Wilson. I think that he could separate himself as the best running back in Miami this year, and so I think Jeff Wilson has a chance to be a real steal here late in the draft. We got a few that I consider to be real steals. I think when this season comes to a close and we look back on these teams, we're really going to see that it would have been difficult to make some lineup decisions with this group. So we are going to pick Dicker the kicker, Cameron Dicker, as the final pick for our team. Overall, once again, I like how this team ended up. Let's take a look at it. Our starting quarterback is Josh Allen. Our starting running backs are going to be Saquon Barkley and Dameon Pierce. Our wide receiver is going to be DK Metcalf and Drake London, with Darren Waller as our tight end. And our flex, we have options. It'll probably be George Pickens every week, but you can also go Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert. And then we have some depth plays with Jalen Warren, Romeo Doubs, Darnell Mooney, Jeff Wilson, and then our kicker is Cameron Dicker, with the defense being the New Orleans Saints. So once again, we come away with the 7th pick with a team that we quite like. Not to toot my own horn, but I think so far so good on some of these drafts. I believe it was 3 that we didn't necessarily love the team that we had coming away from this, but overall, I feel like the strategy that we have been implementing has been working on these mock drafts so far, and we come away each time with a team that we are actually quite excited about. So that is going to do it for this mock draft.